after the 8th of January 2015. Your time starts now.
Yeah. Actually, the dictatorial manner in which the last government functioned was brought to a halt on the 8th of January 2015, and thereafter we have been able to establish various forms which strengthen democracy and bring freedom to the citizens of this country. One main issue was when you take the communities during the previous regime, some of the communities thought that they don't belong to this country. But after the 8th of January, we were able to arrest that situation, and most of them feel that we are now one nation, one country, and we can work together. I think President Maithripala Sirisena was able to instill a lot of confidence amongst all these communities, and as a result of that, we were able to bring some kind of stability to this country. Then the other thing is now the establishment of independent commissions. With the establishment of these commissions, arbitrary political appointments will cease, and we believe that there will be good governance, institutions will be run, people will be appointed on their merits. So therefore, we can hope that this country will move forward in the correct direction. The other thing is now, if you take the international community as a whole, we had a very, very bad image. Now, a person like Honorable Mr. Lakshman Kadragama, when he was Foreign Minister, he was able to clear it, and it was at a very, very high level. Our international appearance in the international world was at a high level, but subsequently that also was ruined. But now after the 8th of January, with the leadership of President Maithripala Sirisena, that image is slowly reappearing in this country. So these are the factors which we can talk about good governance and the country going on in the correct direction. Of course, there are still lots to be corrected. Much needs to be done, but this is a good start, I would say.
Mr. Gururatna, you said that international relations have improved and it is changing for the better. Who is responsible, the President or the Prime Minister?
The President has been responsible for this because he has brought about all the changes. And I would say the Prime Minister also has played a role in that. But it is the President's image and the confidence which the other communities have placed upon him. So therefore, it is more, I would say, more the President, but I would not say that the Prime Minister has not played a role in that. Definitely the Prime Minister has played a role in it. That's why they got this mandate.
Thank you very much, Mr. Maitri Gururatna, attorney at law and also former Southern Provincial Councillor. And now move on to UPFA parliamentarian Vidura Wickramanayaka. Nice to have you on board today on the show, Mr. Wickramanayaka. Do you think good governance is in practice right now in Sri Lanka? The time starts now.
There are certain factors which affects the good governance, especially in the Sri Lankan scenario. Have we, now for an example, graft and corruption, has it been stopped after January 8th? No, I don't think so. On the other hand, if you take the Parliament today, which is the legislation of this country, the opposition has not been given proper allocation of time. So these are the certain indicators that whether the good governance is in practice or not. You can blame the previous regimes, previous governments, previous leaders. That has been the practice. not only of this government but even maybe of the previous government. We always blame somebody else for the mistakes of ours. That is taking place even now. Something tangible for the people has not been offered so far. You can have the name board, good governance. Is that all what the people need? What about the development? What about the progress of maybe of certain sectors? For an example, education or law and order. What is happening to this country, I don't know whether everybody is happy. The majority may not be happy. That is my feeling. Not even the kids. So there are, as I said, there are different angles that we should consider on good governance. Not purely on paperwork. No, I don't believe that. This has to be something very practical. The people should feel it. I don't know whether people, anybody can say that, okay, the international community, now we have been accepted. Now we were a basket case a couple of years back. Those are all rhetorics, I suppose. But what we should concern is about the Sri Lankans and Sri Lanka.
Why was there change, Mr. Wickramanayaka, in your opinion, on the 8th of January? What was the reason?
I do believe that there were shortcomings.
Was it corruption that we're talking about?
Maybe.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vidura Wickramanayaka, parliamentarian representing the People's Freedom Alliance. I now move on to a senior banker who was a former senior banker, Mr. Rusnipala Pennakon. Mr. Pennakon, you've been very vocal about the central bank bond issue. Again, seconds to what Mr. Wickramanayaka said with regard to corruption that has taken place following the 8th of January. Do you believe that good governance is in practice?
Well, I think I should start by saying that we are all living in a stage of expectation, full of expectation, waiting for something to happen, which means essentially that people are expecting something which is not there. Otherwise, there should not be any expectation. Why is there an expectation? Because something is not happening right now. So people are looking forward for something to happen. It all depends on how this came about. People were told that drastic changes are going to be brought about. Pledges were given, promises were given. They were shown that there were certain bad things that the new government would eliminate soon than later. But we are all waiting for that to happen. That is exactly the situation in the country today. If you ask anybody about good governance or whether there is a prevalence of good governance stage, everybody will say no doubt. Well, we are yet to see that, because we haven't seen the bad side being removed or bad side being exposed properly. We don't know what is happening. So many commissions, so many inquiries, so many investigations. But where are they? Where are they leading to? What have they led to? We are yet to understand, yet to be told. Then about the country's situation. This is a country that is drifting along, if I say, without a proper plan being announced for the future of the country and for the future of the people. I do not know how we move forward from this point onwards, because if people do not know where we are leading to, why we are waiting, for what are we waiting, I think this is a very, very precarious situation, I should say, because people don't know what is in waiting for them. So therefore, you call it good governance or anything, we are yet to see a proper plan for implementation, for the achievement of all the pledges that were given in the past.
Are we waiting for something to happen, or are we waiting for a miracle, Mr. Pennakon?
Well, it looks like both. If it happens, it will be a miracle, And definitely we are waiting for that something to happen.
Are we on the right track? Do you think that Sri Lanka is on the right track?
Well, for anybody to say that, make that statement, they must see in concrete terms the plans and the layout for such a thing. We don't see that. We see bits and pieces everywhere, here and there. We see huge problems coming before us, huge budget deficits, and various other problems coming. Everything, I think, with regard to investigations and other things, it looks like it's a standstill and going in a direction that we never thought of. That is what is happening.
Thank you very much, Ms. Tendakon. Our topic of discussion today is the state of good governance. Let me introduce our journalist this evening. On to my immediate right is Nadine Majid. Nice to see you on the show after a lapse of 2 weeks, right, Nadine?
That's right, Samuel. Good to be back.
Nice to have you on board as well. And then we have the man with the files, Faraz Shaukat Ali. Nice to have you on board as well, Faraz. You have 2 files today. Again, like the last week, I'm not going to ask what these files are about. I'll let you pose the questions to our guest today. And then we have with us our young journalist, Shaheen Jurampati, on board today as well. So we open the questions for the journalists. So today, I'll start off with Faraz.
Thank you. Mr. Rusripala, you said we are waiting. Are we waiting for Godot?
Looks like indefinite, uncertain waiting.
And it's about good governance. But I've given up reading my novel because I found something more interesting to read, The Avant-Garde Contract. Well, what do you have to say about this? What do you think the public is thinking?
Well, at the moment, it looks a bit of a mix-up because those in high places, those who are responsible to make matters clear, make statements proper, have not done so far. There have been contradictory statements, contradictory positions. As far as the public is concerned, I should say that we are in the dark still as to what exactly is going to happen. And let me tell you a very strange thing. Sometime back, before all this came out to this state that it is prevailing today, a very, very important persons, very highly connected to the government, they have been saying, well, there was nothing wrong with this avant-garde thing. I have heard somebody saying, well, if I have the right, I will give the person, the owner or the proprietor, a knighthood. That was the school of thought that was prevailing in some quarters. But today we see, again, skeletons are coming out of cupboards. A lot of things are coming out.
So, have you been encouraged by the Prime Minister's statement in Parliament?
I'm further confused. I'm afraid, further confused.
As an attorney at law, Mr. Gunratna, what is your take about the avant-garde scenario? What has taken place? The Attorney General's department initially saying that they will not file charges against avant-garde, and now we saw after the Prime Minister's statement, they've again come out saying that a case would be filed on the Money Laundering Act. What is happening?
Whether there is a charge with regard to the Money Laundering Act is a question which we will have to see. But the fact that there were weapons, automatic weapons, issued to persons who are not members of the security forces is an issue which the Attorney General will have to go to. Because our law, our country does not permit any person to own a fully automatic weapon.
But Mr. Gunratna, just to clarify that, the Attorney General has already been through that. We saw the report that was compiled by Vasantha Bandara, where he said in the report it was mentioned that charges can be filed under the Firearms Ordinance. That was the initial line of investigation that the Attorney General was following. And the Attorney General then decided that charges cannot be filed on this, and the case was terminated.
So they are contradicting their own report, or they are contradicting themselves. Mr. Vasantha Bandara is saying that you can file it under the Firearms Ordinance, and then someone else is saying that they are going to conclude the investigation. They are contradicting themselves.
So you're saying that they should continue with that investigation and that they should file charges under the Firearms Ordinance?
What I'm saying is this: if someone other than a member of the security forces has been in possession of an automatic weapon or weapons for that matter, then there is a need to investigate it and see how they have come upon it, because the laws of this country now, if you are in possession of a cartridge, a bullet of a T-56, I mean you are prosecuted under the Offensive Weapons Act. You have no bail. You have to go to the High Court to get bail. So these are interesting things where I suppose the Attorney General is having two different scales. When it's the common man, he has to go in the possession of a cartridge, or if they find a bullet in his garden, there are numerous occasions they have taken and produced them before the magistrate, and they have to go to the High Court to get bail. So are they following two different standards? Now these are issues which the Attorney General will have to answer honestly, because this department, I have been a member of that department. The Attorney General's department, I mean their opinions are treated with the highest respect. But if they are going to contradict their own opinions, if two people are saying two different things, I mean God help the Chief Law Officer of the state.
Is the Aegis department acting based on the women's fancy of a certain political party right now?
That is a question it is difficult to answer, but their conduct is, I mean if one officer is giving one opinion at a certain time and then that is subsequently changed, then that only goes to show that someone is calling the shots from somewhere.
Mr. Wickramanayaka, what do you think? Do you think the AG's office is prone to politicization? Do you think it has been politicized in the past? Is it politicized now? Is that why we're seeing so many contradictory statements with regard to avant-garde?
Lack of self-confidence.
Self-confidence. Would you care to elaborate, sir?
Is there anything to elaborate on self-confidence?
Mr. Wickramanayaka, you were part of the previous regime.
Can I add to that?
Yes.
Nobody is above the law. Nobody should be above the law. That is why we wanted this executive presidency out. Because that itself creates inequality in the society and in the country. So therefore, if somebody has committed a crime, the books should be thrown at him. Him or her, whoever it is.
Mr. Wickramanayaka,
are you saying the Attorney General is incapable of doing this?
I'm not saying that he is incapable, but lack of self-confidence. Looks like they don't have self-confidence. If you ask me whether this has been politicized, why it has been politicized? So if we allow our department or our institute or our country to be politicized in such a manner that will not favor freedom and lawful society, then definitely we lack self-confidence.
Mr. Wickramanayaka, you were part of the previous regime.
Yes,
and
not a regime.
The previous government.
I was not a part of regime.
You were part of the previous government, the UPFA-led government, where President Mahinda Rajapaksa was the head of your cabinet. This deal with regard to avant-garde was signed and reached during this regime. Were you aware, as a member of parliament, about it?
No.
Do you think this is
not aware of that?
Do you think that this is a corrupt activity undertaken by the then government?
This is before for judicial perusal, so I don't want to say anything against or for. I don't know the opinion of the learned lawyer next to me, Mr. Maitri Gunratna. I believe that unless, of course, inside the parliament we may be able to deliberate on this. But my personal view, that is what I said, nobody is above the law.
You have been very vocal even during the tenure of the previous government as well, Mr. Wickramanayaka. Right now, Mr. Maitri Gunaratne said there was a dictatorial rule before. Under the leadership of President Maithripala Sirisena, do you see a change in your party?
SLFP or UPFA?
SLFP and the UPFA both. He's the head of the UPFA as well.
I don't know. Well, Mr. Maitri Gunaratne has everything to for his own ideas. As you said, we have been criticizing, and no white man came to pick me up, or nobody called me and said not to go ahead with whatever I say. So there would have been certain incidents under every government that has happened. Mr. Maitri Gunaratne as well as Mr. Vidura, all of us are very much aware of those things. But that is not a reason for you to commit the same mistake.
For you to commit the same mistake, Mr. Tendekon, are we committing the same mistake again and again?
Well, let me, before I answer that question, can I just add
yes,
a little, one sentence to the previous avant-garde issue. We were talking about contradictions between officers from the Attorney General's department. But did any of us notice that such contradictions have been endorsed in Parliament by no one other than the Honourable Prime Minister himself? By way of an excuse, if I remember correct, he made us, in his statement, he stated very clearly, well, it was a matter of two opinions, as if the two opinion situation was okay.
Is it not okay? Is it not okay for the Attorney General to have a different opinion to a Deputy Solicitor General?
Well, we see it as a contradiction as members of the public because it is coming from an organization. If all members individually from one organization make statements different to each other, well, I don't know what opinion we can form about.
But if Mr. Bandara's report wasn't leaked, we would never have known what his opinion was, and we would have only known what the Attorney General's opinion was. So it would have been
what happens
one opinion.
Now, how the Attorney General's department functions is, when a file is referred to the Attorney General's department, it is allocated to a certain officer. Then that officer, either he can do it himself, or he can get the services of another officer, a junior officer, to go into the file and give him a factual report. So, I believe that factual report has been given to Mr. Vasantha Bandara. He himself, being a very senior and able prosecutor, has gone through this report, gone through the facts, and formulated his opinion that this comes under the whatever the ordinance.
And that there is a prima facie case.
There is a prima facie case. So now, once that has been given, then if someone else says no, there is no issue there, then there is some kind of foul play there. That's clear. It's extremely clear, because once an opinion is given, I mean, they are not going to change it. For anyone can influence. They are not going to, the officer who gave it is not going to change it.
Which is the body that's responsible for holding this office in check, for holding the Attorney General's department in check? Is it the Bribery and Corruption Commission?
I think it is coming under the Minister of Justice.
Minister of Justice.
Yes.
Are we committing the same mistakes over and over again, Mr. Tendekon? Reference to what Mr. Wickramanayaka said.
Well, we don't see such a situation really in the real sense. We are all, we don't see any of those repetitions of what we have experienced before. Hopefully, that will continue, because no one can say that there has been some grave injustice or something wrong done in the society like what was happening in the past. So therefore, I don't endorse, or I don't add to the fact that that there is a repetition. We are too early to say that. I don't know whether it's going to happen in the future, but right now, as far as the society is concerned, as far as the activities are concerned, as far as the intervention by the government is concerned, we have not seen any major big falls as such.
However, a few months ago, you said the central bank bond issue was a major concern. You're changing your policy now, I believe.
No, certainly not. What I was referring to was, this white van business and that type of thing, I mean, where with regard to the...
But corruption is taking place.
With regard to bond issue, of course, I still hold my view, and it is a very, very bad case, very bad experience that this whole country went through and is going through. And there's no end to it, and that is the very sad state of affairs. In spite of all the comments, in spite of all the criticisms, in spite of all the exposures, in spite of the facts behind it, it is yet on hold.
And you still have the governor of the central bank holding office even after the 17th of August.
Very unfortunate situation. There are countries in the world where when a train meets with an accident, the transport minister resigns. When there is something happening in a school, the education minister resigns. But here is a governor who decides his disciplinary course of action by himself. He decides when I should go on leave, and he decides when I should come back and sit in my seat again. Very strange state of affairs.
Corruption is still taking place, Mr. Gunaratna. Agree? Disagree?
There is, this central bank issue, I feel it stinks to high heavens. There is no, I'm not going to mince my words. What is bad, whoever does it.
So you agree with Mr. Vidura Wickramanayaka's statement with regard to past mistakes are being repeated?
Somewhat. The point is this: you cannot put it off like a switch, on and off like a switch, because I would say the previous regime. I'm not saying that everything they did was bad, but corruption and abuse of power was at a very, very high level, and after the 8th of January, everyone is expecting magic to be performed. Now, you saw after the 8th of January, even in Parliament, the majority in Parliament, the ability for the government to take forward Parliament was at stake. That's why we had to go in for an election. Otherwise, the ideal situation would have been to go on for about 1 year, get everything stabilized, bring in all the commissions, and then to have gone for an election. But since Parliament and the democratic setup was not all that stable, we had to go in for a Parliament election. So what I'm trying to say is, at least they are putting in the systems at every given stage to bring in this good governance, to bring in see that a better country and people who come in future will not be able to abuse the power. So those systems are coming into place. Now, for instance, the commissions. Now, after January, only the commissioners were only appointed about a week ago. So now that they will take maybe another 1 month or 2 months to start getting things into operation. So, we have to be a little patient also.
Mr. Wickramanayaka, patience is quite virtue, isn't it?
Of course. Yeah, sometimes it might cost a lot.
We're now going for a short commercial break. We'll next round we can pose your questions as well. Nadeem, we're going for a short commercial break. State of good governance. I'm positive and confident that for us, Shaukat Ali will pose questions about the outer circular highway as well. What went wrong there? Is really good governance in practice in Sri Lanka? All that and more of this short commercial break. Stay with Face the Nation. Welcome back. This is Face the Nation. We start off the third round with Mr. Rusipal Tendakon, who is a former banker. Mr. Tendakon, good governance in practice. That is our topic of discussion today. What is the state of good governance in Sri Lanka right now? 17th of August, many pledges were made by the present regime in terms of the country's economy, in terms of introducing new electoral reforms, in terms of ensuring that there is a code of conduct for parliamentarians. What took place during the recent past in Parliament? As a layman, are you satisfied with what is taking place right now in Parliament with regard to conduct? We see senior MPs taking the mace, trying to control Parliament. Is this what we as Sri Lankans expect? The time starts now.
Well, more than the members of the public, I think the dissatisfaction is very much among the people who promoted good governance and brought the new change. I think they are dissatisfied more than the public, because we have seen the example of some very important role players in the good governance game backing out, making statements which we never thought would be said so soon. So that is the state of affairs. So being members of the public, of course, we are far away, and we are much ahead of them to think that the good governance situation that we expected to take place or happen is taking some time to happen. So we are all waiting for a happening. I must say, looking at the economy, looking at the planning, looking at what is being prophesied and what is being said, we feel as members of the public that there is a priority mix-up by the people with regard to by the people who govern with regard to the economy, because the people are living in expectation that their standard of life, standard of living will be better than what it is or what it was. But I don't see, or we have not seen any concrete plans or anything being said about making or leading towards that situation. We are talking of megapolis cities, we are talking of very high, big, advanced technologies, we are thinking of Wi-Fi, we are thinking of various high-sounding things. But do these things matter very much in the minds of the public who are affected with the standard of living? The very existence has become a problem to the large majority of the people in this country. Therefore, without any reservation, I would like to say there is a bit of a mix-up of the priorities for this government. Unless and until they announce and make that position clear, no one can blame us for coming into that opinion, because we form opinion based on what is happening. When we don't see anything, we can't presume that it is going to happen. There is no necessity for us to presume things. That is my view about it.
Do we have the money right now to do all these things, mega police, the city development, so on and so forth? Do we have the money?
This is where I keep on saying that the priorities must be set. Lack of funds, the increasing burden of debts, which we have inherited, the new government has inherited, partly, mostly, and then the low incomes from imports and the added expenditure, public expenditure, all these are going to be problems. We are waiting to see how they are going to cope up with this situation.
Thank you very much, Ms. Tenakon. I now move on to Attorney at Law, Mr. Maitri Gunratna. You said something very interesting. You said that magic cannot be created within a few months. Isn't this what was pledged for change? The time starts now.
I would say that most of the factors which strengthen democracy and good governance have been put into place. So now we have to, with time, we have to only reap the benefits of it, I should think. But with regard to maybe the economy, I would say there is a slowdown. Now these are things which has to be addressed by this present regime. And if it is not addressed, then we are going to face serious trouble. Now, if you take the dollar, the rising of the dollar is causing huge problems for the day-to-day existence of the common man. Now, I can't understand why this is not being addressed. Why the present government is not looking at it in a manner where the common man is not going to get affected. Because having come into power, they what they pledged, they did. Especially with regard to petroleum, the prices of petroleum were brought down drastically, and there was a huge amount of relief. But today, world market prices of oils and petroleum and various things are going down, but we are unable to give the benefit to the public. So now when this type of thing happens, there is definitely something wrong which is taking place. I would say, I mean, there is an inherited burden we have, but even with that, now in 77, when Mr. Jayawardena became the president of this country, I mean, at that time also the country was basically bankrupt, but he was able to launch huge projects like the Mahaveli. He was able to attract the funding for that. He was able to get grants for launching such projects. So I feel that still, although our leaders have gone all over the world, they have still not been able to attract that type of funding for the country to launch on these massive development projects.
Mr. Gunaratna, many were of the opinion that if a UNP government comes into play, forms a government, the UNP forms a government, the business climate would be great. However, things have not improved.
No, there is a perception.
All decline as
there is a perception. There was a perception that Mr. Ranil Wickramanayaka is an expert on reviving the economy. That seems to be only a perception. That has actually not come into play at the moment. And I feel even His Excellency the President also is of that opinion. And he has left it to the Prime Minister to revive the economy, whereas the President is going on a move to bring all races and bring all parties together, unite the country. You would say, if you would see his speeches, his plan of action has always been trying to bring these communities together, whereas he has left the whole thing to the Honorable Prime Minister. So we'll have to wait and see whether the Honorable Prime Minister will deliver the goods.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gunaratna. We'll have to wait and see whether the Prime Minister will deliver the goods. We will have to wait and see, of course. We now move on to UPFA parliamentarian Mr. Vidura Wickramanayaka. Mr. Wickramanayaka, you were the son of a well-respected Prime Minister in Sri Lanka, former parliamentarian Ratnasiri Wickramanayaka, who was quite respected in Sri Lanka as a Prime Minister. We saw a member of the former government, a senior member of the former government's behavior yesterday in Parliament, going and trying to take the mace, and there were several MPs. I was not there personally, but I heard that several MPs surrounded him, giving him a push to take the mace as well. And then I saw reports surfacing that the Sergeant-at-Arms didn't know what to do in Parliament. Code of conduct in this good governance process, how important is it? And as a member of that former government, how did you feel yesterday? Were you in Parliament yesterday, parliamentarian?
Not at that juncture. I wasn't there.
What is your take? Obviously, you knew what exactly happened, what transpired yesterday. Code of conduct for parliamentarians, how important is it?
I have been in Parliament for about 5 years. And I asked my father that these things have been there when he was a member since 1960 March. His answer was there were some incidents, even the chairs were thrown at each other. That is why the chairs are now screwed to the ground. Shall I?
Yes, please.
Continue?
Mr. Wickramanayaka, yes.
And you are talking of yesterday's incident. About 2 weeks back, Mr. Maitri Gunaratna, I hope you can remember very well, the words used by the Honorable Prime Minister of this country in the Parliament. It's more than 2 weeks, I suppose. I couldn't believe. Have we come down to this level? And the very same people who are advocating good governance. That is why I said good governance is not on paper. That is not, we cannot accept that. We have to feel it. Not only among the parliamentarians, but of the people. But that feeling is not there. As Mr. Rusirupa put forward. Now, for an example, the paddy farmers. Where are they? On the streets. What is happening to the tea and rubber sector? They were given, a lot of promises and pledges were given. Not once but twice. Before January 8th and before August 17th. So these are they are advocating good governance. Is bluffing a part of good governance? A principle? You are bluffing your own people. Well, somebody may say that, oh yes, even during Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksa's government, they also did that. Right, fine. That is exactly why the people voted against. That is why I said, should we repeat the same mistake?
Mr. Tendekon said, before moving on to the fourth round, Mr. Tendekon said about debt inherited by the present regime. We saw many projects being undertaken by the former government as well. We saw ports being built, we saw airports being built, now used as paddy storage facility. Debt inherited by this government. What do you have to say about that?
I don't have to say anything about that, but you know, these are economic wizards. That is how they portray themselves in this government. The ministers, state ministers, deputy ministers. So they knew what they will inherit. Now why complain now?
Thank you very much, Mr. Wickramanayaka. Why complain now if they knew this is what they will inherit? I open the floor for questions from our journalists. We'll start off with Shahin.
Thank you very much, Amit. My first question to you, Mr. Maitri Gunaratne. Now, over the course of this discussion we had today, several things were brought up in terms of investigations are on hold, good governance on hold, if there's an economic decline, pledges not fulfilled in terms of farmers, as MTV Wickramanayaka said. Would you say this government has its hands on their head, confused as to what they have to do and what they are doing?
To some extent, yes. Especially now when you take these investigations. I mean, you don't need to arrest a person and then put him into jail and put him into remand and investigate. You can start an investigation. You can question and collect all the evidence which is necessary. And if there is cogent evidence, if there is a prima facie case, you can then arrest him and charge him. So what I can see, what is happening is, I mean, they are only trying to, score some brownie points in arresting someone and saying, okay, we have arrested him, but ultimately what happens is they go out scot-free. So with regard to that, I feel that there is some kind of confusion. There is confusion. So these are matters which this government will have to look into carefully, even though it is already too late. And if they are embarking on any investigation without going with all guns blazing and arresting people and just putting them behind bars, it is better for them to have a comprehensive investigation, and then the arrest will be imminent. So with regard to that, that's what I have to say.
MTV Wickramanayaka, as we discussed again, there was a mention of burden being inherited. Now, as you said again, investigations on hold, good governance on hold, so on and so forth. Do you believe these things are on hold because of the burden that has been inherited by the previous government?
No, I don't believe that.
And you also said that nothing is on track right now. So now since everything seems to be in a state of disarray, where do we start from to get things on track?
From the top itself.
Thank you very much.
Can you turn back time? You're saying we have to start from the top. What is the top? How do you define the top? Is it
From the
from the
president
2005 or is it since 2005?
From the president itself, not the time. I'm not talking about
Not the time. Okay, from the top, the post. Whose side are you in, Mr. Wickramanayaka?
The people's side.
People obviously voted you in. You have the president as the leader of the UPFA and the SLFP, and then you have several factions within the SLFP as well.
These are mere personalities. I'm a mere personality. But they are people. I'm on the side of the people, not
Side
on
of the people.
Not on personal. I'm
Mr.
not.
Wickramanayaka, we're talking about discipline in Parliament, the code of conduct, all of these things. These were among the first batch of promises in the 100-day program. The code of conduct for public representatives, amending standing orders of Parliament to give the committees more teeth. I mean, I had a conversation recently with one of your colleagues in Parliament. I won't mention his name because he's not here.
Yep.
But he was unaware of what committees he has been assigned to. And I mean,
So I am.
so are you. Now, we all know that the majority of Parliament's work happens in the committees.
True.
So 2 months after Parliament has convened, the MPs don't know which committees they are in.
No, not a single committee has been convened.
Not a single committee has even been convened, but the appropriations bill has been tabled in Parliament.
The appropriation bills are tabled. That is irony. So you can just imagine the state of affairs.
Mr. Wickramanayaka, let's move on to yeah.
We've been talking of good governance and waiting and all that business. This is from the manifesto. It says here, it is true that there was always corruption and fraud. However, the extent of corruption in Sri Lanka in the last 3 years is unprecedented and unheard of before. And then it goes on to say, earlier people spoke about 10% commissions. Now the talk is about 90% ransoms. And then we have on the 30th of March a memo from none other than our dear Prime Minister, Mr. Wickramanayaka, who says that unsolicited proposals must not be accepted from now onwards. And yet, 3 weeks after this 30th of March letter, they award a contract for the Outer Circular Highway to the same company for the same amount of money. So where's the good governance?
That is exactly what I have been telling.
What can you do about it in Parliament?
Well, we can raise, we can question, that's all. But I think this, especially the bond issue, which was swept under the carpet. I have a feeling, Mr. Gunaratna, if correct me if I am wrong, all public servants should take a pledge or an oath, depending on their religion, that their allegiance to the Constitution of Sri Lanka.
They do take it.
They do take it as a parliamentarian.
So how would the
As
governor
the
of the central bank
central bank governor, that is, this is
That Mr. Wickramanayaka is coming to is because he is not a citizen of Sri Lanka.
then why is he allowed to be the head of our one of the prestigious institutes, financial institutes, not only one of the most.
Mr. Gunaratna, is there a case? Can a citizen of this country take the Prime Minister to court because this is tantamount to breach of contract? Because he's writing a letter and he's misleading the entire country, if not the cabinet. He says here
There is no one stopping anyone doing that. You can. Unfortunately, our judicial system has not been geared for that type of thing. But otherwise, yes, you can.
There's nothing in the rules now to preclude that.
No. A contract is a contract.
Are you still in practice?
Yes.
I'll see you on Monday.
Mr. Wickramanayaka, can I ask you, is Parliament dysfunctional? Because from what you say, it appears to me as if it seems that the most dysfunctional public institution is the Parliament. You feel that way?
I do feel that way. And I felt that way.
Felt that way for the past 5 years, I assume. Mr. Wickramanayaka, in the 100-day program that President Maithripala Sirisena put forward as his election manifesto, these were the primary objectives. These were supposed to be done within the first month and a half. Amending the standing orders of Parliament and introducing a code of conduct for public representatives. Did you support that part of the 100-day manifesto?
Yes, for anything that is good,
beneficial to the people
and beneficial, constructive. Yes, we are there.
So you feel that is constructive?
Yeah, that is constructive.
Is the opposition doing enough in Parliament to push for these reforms, to push the government to implement?
Yes, but our voice is not being heard. That is what this Mace incident was. The root cause of that.
Mr. Gunaratna, where do you stand on this? You were talking about how since the 8th of January the climate has improved, there is greater unity, greater strides towards reconciliation, etc. But things like this, fundamental flaws in the House of Legislation. 2 months after Parliament convened, the MPs don't know which committees they are in, and Parliament is supposed to function. What do you make of this?
I am thankful to Mr. Ranil Wickramasinghe for not having given me nominations during the last election after I heard Mr. Wickramanayaka speaking, because going into a Parliament where there is nothing happening, I think is basically a waste of time. But this has to stop.
And more than that, Mr. Gunaratna, the Speaker himself said 4.2 million is being spent. 4.6 million rupees being spent every day the Parliament meets.
That's without sausages and bacon.
Yes.
So this is an absolute waste of money, isn't it? Because the Parliament is not doing any of its work. If the people that we have elected into office are not doing the job that they have been elected to do, and they're spending 4.6 million rupees to what? To come there, have a party, throw some chairs at each other and yell in filth at each other?
Unfortunately, it has come to that.
How do you resolve this, though? How do you resolve this? How do you move? There has to be a way to go beyond that.
My concern is there should be political reforms. Not considering a person who is in the office. Now, in the 19th Amendment, there were certain clauses giving the present president, until he is in power, yes, he can be the executive. That shouldn't have been done. This is a problem of continuing executive presidency in this country and having a Parliament at the same time. These two cannot function together. That is what has been brought up by certain issues. So, I personally believe the executive presidency should go. It's time. It's high time it should go.
Mr. Tenukon,
because we have the Parliament. Pardon me. Just one more. The Parliament should not be used as a rubber stamp.
As a member of the public, how do you see what's happening in Parliament these days? No committees, there's no debate happening on there's no legislation.
Well, as for me, I don't see anything strange happening there, because the beginning was that we started with a promise that it is a Parliament of consensus, that it is some kind of a national government. Now, we are far short of those things, any of those. I don't see any consensus anywhere there, among any. So, there's nothing for us to be wondering about it, because the beginning was bad. It was a totally untrue situation, non-existing situation, which they tried to make out is going to happen. Never happened. And it's not happening. There is no consensus there. There is no national feeling there. There is no national government there. This is the situation. As a member of the public, this is what I see.
It appears that after the August 17th election, the current parliament has forgotten all about the 100-day program and moves that were initiated in the previous parliament, like the 20th Amendment. I think under the 100-day program, a committee was appointed. I believe Professor Raju Vijay was in that committee to look at the revision of standing orders. So none of that is happening in this parliament, is it?
Yeah, nothing is.
No, but I think
not even the 20th Amendment.
The 20th Amendment is done. It's already been buried.
Mr. Gunaratne, yes.
Mr. Gunaratne?
No, but I heard the Speaker, Honorable Mr. Karuja Surya, saying that within the next 1.5 months this code of conduct is going to see the light of day. So I think someone is working on it, in fairness to them.
Okay.
And I think it is the Speaker who will have to be more responsible in seeing that the affairs of Parliament is conducted in a manner which can be accepted by the public. I mean, this can't happen like this. And especially senior politicians like Mr. Dinesh Gunawardena acting in that manner. And as Mr. Honorable Mr. Vidura Wickramanayaka stated, I mean, I heard the Prime Minister's speech or the Prime Minister's statement. I mean, whoever it is, it can be Dinesh Gunawardena, it can be Ranil Wickramasinghe, it can be anyone, but they cannot bring the respect of Parliament. They cannot disrespect Parliament. If this is happening, whoever it is, I mean, the Speaker should come down like a ton of bricks and rectify the situation.
What are the priorities of this government, Mr. Gunaratne?
Existence.
Survival.
Survival.
Survival. Survival at the moment.
Survival.
For how long?
That is anyone's guess.
4.5 years, the Parliament cannot be dissolved, so we are expecting the Parliament to function for the next 4.5 years. Mr. Tendakon, are you satisfied the way in which we are now moving forward? In terms of good governance, in terms of how this country's economy is looking at the moment, are you satisfied?
Going back to what we were discussing a little while ago, it's about what is happening in the Parliament. I think if things are going to start from there, I put the blame on people who don't create or bring up issues that are important to the country to see how the Parliament reacts. In the absence of important issues concerning the people, concerning the country, concerning the economy, all these wild happenings can take place and nobody blames about it. But if there is an important issue, then we can see where the Parliament goes, what the parliamentarians do, what their stand is. But to me, to us, we have not seen any such important issue coming before Parliament yet. I don't know what's going to happen in the budget.
No. Are we going to see a giveaway budget this time around as well? Because we saw a giveaway budget in November last year. We saw a giveaway budget in January.
It will be a take-in budget. It will be a take-in budget.
It will be a take-in budget.
You can have a giveaway budget and give away the government as well.
You have to be more serious than that, certainly. Most certainly.
Are you concerned about the country's economy, Mr. Tendakon, at the moment?
Of course, yes. Of course, yes. I mean, that is the key factor. Most of these misbehaviors or misconducts, all that is secondary. The question of economy, when it comes and if the issues proper are being debated and discussed and are being proposed, well, everybody will take their place, take their shape, and they will contribute in the way that it is expected, because public is watching. But now what we are seeing is some scene where no one is interested in. Some statement being made, some story being said. Who is worried?
Mr. Wickramanayaka, hold on for a second.
Do you know how much the budget deficit is?
I don't know exactly. I do not know, but I think it is going to be the biggest ever deficit that we had in this country.
The finance minister said it's around 6% for us. You know
yes, in terms of money. In terms of money, I'll put you out of your misery. It's 1,000, just under, okay? 1,400 billion.
Yes.
Or put it another way, 1.4 trillion.
I hope you have figures and statistics to prove your claim for us.
It'll be going out in the news in about 20 minutes' time.
Mr. Vidura, what is your take about the country's economy right now? Are you concerned about the country's economy? What do you think right now?
Certainly. I mean, this is one of the main topics which we thought we could be able to rectify. I of course feel that it's still not going quite well, and there is a huge amount of subsidies and all which have been promised, and I don't think with this budget they will be able to continue to do that. So with that,
even the centralized funds of the parliamentarians have not been given yet.
No, they will not be able to give it at this rate, because you can see how the dollar is going up. So that only goes to show that our foreign reserves are coming down.
Mr. Wickramanayaka said that change has to start from the top. Do you agree with? Are you in agreement with that?
Not quite there. Not quite there. But I think there has been a significant change from what it was from before 8th of January 2015. There is a huge change, and I mean, right now you cannot point a finger at the president and say, okay, this is being done in a wrong manner, right? So he is the head of a national government, and in fairness to him, he has given full responsibility to the Prime Minister to bring the economy right. So I mean, he has given his chance.
Mr. Wickramanayaka, you want to counter that or comment on that? Or agree with that?
Yes, all the rights to his own opinion.
Yeah. Well, I'll pose a question to you. Very famous Saint Augustine once said that in the absence of justice, sovereignty is organized robbery. In Sri Lanka, sovereignty is vested in the people and by extension in Parliament. So do you feel that what is happening in Parliament is organized robbery right now? Is that what is happening?
In one angle, yes.
Which angle?
Because see, we cannot deliberately take economy out of this context, or with the politics, or the social, or the economy, environment. All these should be integrated. The development should have an integrated approach. Do we have that? Do we have that? Are we still at a state where we just get things from outside, other countries, selling to our own people with a commission? Have we transformed this? Have we utilized the resources of this country to the fullest to have a production economy? So where are we heading? When the economy collapses, the poverty creeps in, the social norms are being taken for a ride, so with the politicians and the politics. Then the environment degradation. These things do happen. These are happening right now. I'm not pointing my finger at anyone, but the whole context has to be changed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wickramanayaka. We're now going for a short commercial break. Where are we heading now? All this and more after a short commercial break in our final round. Stay connected. Stay with Face the Nation. Welcome back. This is Face the Nation. My guest this evening are Parliamentarian Vidura Wickramanayaka, former Southern Provincial Councillor and Attorney at Law, Mr. Maitri Gunaratne, as well as former banker, Mr. Rusiripala Tennakone. We start off our final round with Mr. Tennakone. Mr. Tennakone, former banker, budget to be presented by the 20th of November. What is the way forward for this nation? The time starts now.
That's a serious task or huge task with the Minister of Finance in the first place, to get his budget in place by bridging the gap which is so heavy and so unpredictably large, and it is, I don't know how he is going to do it, but well, we know the source. Our debt burden will definitely go up further. It is as certain as the sunrise, and without that he will not be able to bridge this budget, big deficit. That's number one. But there are certain concerns as members of the public that we would like the Minister of Finance to address in a situation like this. The country's resources must be addressed properly. In as much as he gives focus or he shows an importance to the foreign investments and so on, the country's own resources must be looked at properly. Now when I say resources, it is not the trees or the paddy fields or even the minerals what we have, not that alone. Take the state-owned enterprises in this country. What is the state of the state-owned enterprises? Is there a single state-owned enterprise which is making good profits and which is doing the job properly for the sake of the people and serving the people? Now this has to be addressed. Now the largest employment in the public sector today, other than in the central government, is in the SOEs, that is the state-owned enterprises. So many people are there. Politically, it is a good thing to give grants, loans and sustain those SOEs than closing them up and sending the people home. I agree. But how long can we continue to do this? How many of our state-owned enterprises can stand on its own with their own generated funds? All are living and surviving with government grants. Should not the government take a call on this matter and then fix targets for the state-owned enterprises to come up to a certain standard with performance-oriented, on a performance-oriented basis?
Very quickly, Mr. Nikon, will the government look at privatization in the future?
Well, it will lead to privatization. When the SOEs are useless and they are not performing, the only other alternative will be the privatization.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thennakoon, for that. I now move on to former Southern Provincial Councillor and Attorney at Law, Mr. Maitri Gunaratne. Where are we really heading now? Where is Sri Lanka heading at the moment? The time starts now.
That is a question which is difficult to answer, but with whatever is left and this present government will have to do is, I mean, there doesn't seem to be funding or mega projects coming into Sri Lanka, right? So I of course feel tourism, after the war, after the ending of the war, tourism has a huge potential in this country, which we have still not been able to explore. We say 1.5 million are coming, 2 million are coming, but I can't see any kind of improvement in the tourist sector, because if you see the papers, the newspapers, there are still hotels which are giving it at 50% off. So that is a good indication to show that the tourist sector is not doing all that well. And we also have to go for major import substitution, which I can't see happening presently. So these are matters which the present finance minister will have to give serious concern. We'll have to look into it, bring in these factors into the budget, and give some kind of encouragement to the local producer, the local farmer, rather than giving subsidies. If we can do import substitution, for instance milk powder, for instance sugar, things like that, we can do the import substitution, but still we can't see a concrete plan taking place. And even tourism, I mean, there are so many ministers. I would say this is a area where even if you have 3 ministers for 3 regions, the Asian region, the European region, then the Middle East region, still it would not be a waste, because if we can get and promote more tourists coming into Sri Lanka, I mean, we have got the natural beauty. We have to only get them to land here and make use of the beauty and spend their money. So there is no major investment which is required for things like that. So I hope the finance minister and the government will look into this in this positive manner and take this country forward.
Thank you very much, Mr. Maitri Gunaratna. I now move on to the UPFA parliamentarian, Mr. Vidura Wickramanayaka. The centralized funds were increased from 5 million to 10 million rupees. Pledges after pledges are being made. What is
even the parliamentarians were taken for a ride.
Parliamentarians were taken for a ride.
5 million was increased to 10 million. Not a single cent came in.
What is the way
the
forward
whole of
for
this
Sri
year.
Lanka? What is the way forward?
Sorry?
What is the way forward, Mr. Wickramanayaka?
We are moving backwards. That is my feeling. At this rate, all we need is a new political order in this country. But we have been always clamoring for this. The public, the people, and the country itself. A new political order should be in place. Otherwise, we won't be able to move ahead. A new political order that concerns the economy, the politics, the environment, and the society. All this should come to play.
What is going to be your role, Mr. Wickramanayaka, in the next 4.5 years to 5 years? You said you represent the people.
Yes.
What is going to be your role?
Well, first as an opposition member, when there are certain mistakes or they committing certain mistakes, then we would like to rectify that. On the other hand, to guide the government on the right direction, and at the same time, usually the opposition is there to oppose anything and everything. No, that should not be the case. Like I said earlier, if the government proposes anything good, fine. We are there to help for the benefit of the people and for the country.
You said your voice is not being heard in Parliament, and this has happened even during the previous regime as well. You said you were very critical before. Do you think your role will be fruitful one in the next 4.5 years?
No, that is to be not. I cannot. How can I be the judge? You all can judge me after 4.5 years, and the people of this country. I cannot say anything right now because as we discussed, nothing. We are not sure of anything of tomorrow. We got a past. Present is moving, and future we are not sure of. That is the picture we have.
Thank you very much.
It's very pathetic, I should say.
Thank you very much, MP Vidura Wickramanayaka, for joining us this evening. Thank you very much, Mr. Maitri Gunaratna, for joining us this evening. And thank you very much, Mr. Tendulkar, for joining us this evening. 3 new guests on the show today. Thank you very much, Nadeem, for coming on board today. For us, as usual, thank you very much. And Shaheen, thank you for joining us this evening. Just a reminder to our viewers, News First, MTV and BC made a pledge today to ensure the protection of the children of this nation. We launched a campaign on the 5th of October this year, going around the country from every nook and cranny to ensure that we promote and protect the rights of our future prospects of this resplendent nation. When there was a time, we've always come to the forefront, we've always stood by the people. There was an increase in child murders, there was an increase in child rape, there was an increase in child abuse cases in Sri Lanka, and we stepped forward and stood by you, the public. I leave you tonight with a quote concerning children. We worry about what a child will become tomorrow, yet we forget that he is someone today. Take care and good night.